Hey, what's up? Coach Ryan Family here from VIPAR. Today I want to talk about how to set up your macros for maximum muscle gain. See a lot of people toiling in the gym year in and year out, never to change their physiques, never to add any muscle when that's their primary goal. And a lot of it boils down to food, to be honest. People just don't know how to eat, or they're not consistent enough with their nutrients. It doesn't come in some magical supplement program. It doesn't come in a jug or a jar. It comes through consistent effort of eating the right foods in the right ratio. So we're going to talk about that. But first, before we dive in how to set up your macros, the first thing that you have to understand is you want to be lean prior to embarking on a maximum mass gain program. The best environment for muscle gain is a calorie surplus, one where you are actively gaining weight on the scale each week. If you're not lean to begin with, you're just going to get fat. Make no mistake about it. If you try to embark on a serious mass gain program and you can't already see at least the outlines of your abs, you're going to be in for some big disappointment when you gain 2 pounds of muscle and 25 pounds of fat for your 27-pound scale gain. All right, it's not worth it. It's much better to get lean first to improve your insulin sensitivity so that your body can use those nutrients more appropriately to build muscle. So the first rule is you need to make sure you can at least see the outline of your abs before you embark on a maximal muscle program, okay? The next rule is you need to be in a calorie surplus. So I'll tell you how to tweak that, but you need to make sure you're eating so that the scale ticks upward about a half a pound to a pound a week on your weekly average, okay? The next thing that you need to ensure, actually let me write that one down. So 0.5 to 1 pound per week on your weekly average. The next thing is you need to eat at least four, not 14. Please don't try to eat 14 meals a day. You need to eat at least 4 meals per day, above 4 meals per day. Sorry, I can't talk and write at the same time. 4 meals per day above the leucine threshold in order to maximize muscle protein synthesis. Leucine is one of the amino acids in all protein sources, not all, I shouldn't say all, in most protein sources. It's going to be most abundant in animal proteins, but leucine is directly related. Leucine is like the switch that turns on muscle protein synthesis from a dietary standpoint. You need at least 4 meals per day that have at least enough leucine in it to trigger that muscle protein synthesis. We're looking at around 3 to 5 grams of leucine in each meal. What does that look like? If you're eating chicken breast, that's going to be about 25 to 30 grams of protein via chicken breast. So maybe, oh gosh, I don't know, 4 ounces of chicken, roughly. If you're eating plant-based protein, that amount's going to be a lot higher. So things like rice protein, pea protein, hemp. If you're a vegan, you're going to have to eat a lot more calories to hit that leucine threshold in each meal. And you need to be at least 4 meals per day to optimize muscle protein synthesis. Research is showing that any fewer than that, and you're going to miss out on some muscle gain. Any more than that likely isn't of any benefit. Now, the only way more than 4 meals a day is going to be a benefit is if you're simply a large human or you have a really, really high calorie amount, and it just makes it easier. That's why you see pro bodybuilders eating 6, 7, 8 times a day, because it's just the sheer calorie amount is too much for any one meal. But you need at least 4 a day. These meals should optimally be 3 hours apart. Okay, there's a refractory period that you must respect with the leucine threshold, and that's about 3 hours. So you don't want to, for example, if you do intermittent fasting and you only have a 4-hour eating window, you're not going to be able to eat, you may be able to eat enough protein, but you're not going to be able to respect the 4 meals per day with a 3-hour refractory period between each meal. So therefore you will not optimize building lean body mass in that situation. So it's better to eat throughout the day if your goal is maximizing muscle. It's not to say you can't build muscle in intermittent fasting, it's just not the most optimal. We're talking optimal here. Okay, so now that we have these basic rules down, how do we set this up with your macros? So, macros are your macronutrients, so protein, carbs, fat, and alcohol. Alcohol is a macro too, even though we don't really talk about it in the context of fitness. But how do we set those up to ensure you're maximizing your time in the gym? So first and foremost, we're going to start with protein. Protein is the most important. So protein, you want to have around 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. per day. Okay, so going back, so let's have a hypothetical person that's 200 pounds. So this 200-pound person is going to need to eat between 160 to 180 grams of protein per day, divided in those 4 meals. Okay, so if they're eating 160 grams of protein per day with 4 meals, 40 grams of protein each meal. Simple. Try to make this as simple as possible on yourself from a math perspective. As far as the difference between 0.8 to 1, it's kind of hard to say. I will say you do need less protein in a calorie surplus than you do in a fat loss diet. So if you're dieting to lose body fat, I would opt for higher protein, even as high as 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. But for mass gain, when you're in a surplus and the scale's going up, you can even go lower with protein. So the higher you push calories, the lower your protein needs are. But anywhere in that 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight range is going to be sufficient to maximize muscle protein synthesis. So you got your protein set. Next is going to be your fats. So we're going to set the fats at a static point for most people, and that's going to be about 0.5 gram per pound body weight. So our 200 pound individual is going to have around 100 grams of fat per day. And we'll talk about this more in a minute. There's some leeway, you could be a little lower. I wouldn't go any lower than 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. So, but that's beside the point for right now. So probably no fewer than 60 grams for a 200 pound individual. We keep fat static to start because and protein, because we want to use titrating carbs to find the sweet spot for where the scale starts to go up. So we're going to keep fat static there. 0.5 grams per pound of body weight is enough fat to ensure that you are optimizing your hormone function. So we make testosterone from fats. So saturated fats in particular and cholesterol are big for boosting testosterone levels. So we want to make sure that we have enough for hormone function and all the other functions that fat does in the body. So that's why we keep it kind of static here. This is going to be plenty to make sure you're covering all your bases. Then from there comes carbs. Carbs, and this is a wide range, 1 to 3 grams per pound body weight. So our 200 pound individual is going to have anywhere from 200 to 600 grams of carbs per day. Wide range, right? Like, gee, Ryan, thanks for helping us with that horribly not helpful information of 200 to 600 grams. Here's how you manage this. Set your protein. So this guy's going to eat 160 grams of protein, 100 grams of fat, and he's going to start on the low end. So he's going to start with 200 grams of carbs. He's going to weigh himself every day. So you weigh yourself every day and take a weekly average at the end of the week. You do this for 2 weeks, and you'll have 2 data points on a weekly average. You want to see what happens to that weekly average body weight. If it goes up, that means you're in a calorie surplus, and you're good. You can stay right where you're at. So if he eats his 200 grams of carbs, and he goes up, good. He doesn't have to tinker anymore. Now, let's say he stays the same. Okay, that just means that's his maintenance calories. So if he wants to maximize muscle mass or put himself in the best possible position to maximize muscle mass, he would need to eat a little bit more. So then you would push that up a little higher. So maybe go 2 grams. So maybe 300 to 400 grams of carbs, somewhere in that range. If he drops weight from 1 week to the next, he needs a big increase in carbs. So I would go then maybe 400 to 500 grams of carbs for the next 2 week period. And you keep tinkering and adjusting until you find the sweet spot where you're gaining around 0.5 pound to 1 pound per week. You don't want to gain any more than that on the scale. And the reason is muscle gain is a painfully slow process. So if you gain 10 pounds in a month, it's highly unlikely that any more than maybe 1 pound is muscle. Probably not even that much, maybe 0.5 pound. A good rule of thumb is 2% of your body weight per year. That's right, per year. So this 200 pound dude would be lucky to gain 4 pounds in a year. All right? If you divide that by 12, you're looking at about 1/3 of a pound per month, okay, of actual dry muscle tissue gain. All right, so that's why we don't want the scale to be going up 5 pounds a week, 10 pounds a week, or anything like that, because all that's gonna do is make you put on body fat. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, guys. You're not putting on 30 pounds of muscle in 2 months. You're just not, okay? It's a slow process that requires time, effort, and consistency. So with that in mind, a half a pound to a pound per week is enough to cover your bases, to give yourself enough fuel to make sure that you're growing. So you titrate these carbs until you find that sweet spot. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. Some people, you're gonna have some ectomorphs or some hard gainers who they get to this top end of the range, so this guy's eating 600 grams of carbs, and he still isn't making the scale go up, despite being consistent with everything else. In that case, that's when you start to push up fats a little bit, from healthy fats. Things like nuts, nut butters, extra virgin olive oil, healthy fats. So in that case, you start adding fat grams. So if he goes from 100 grams, then maybe add 20 grams of fat per day, so 120 grams of fat. And then you slowly push healthy fats up. The reason we don't indiscriminately push carbs up is because eventually you could reach a point where you're making yourself more insulin resistant. So unless your training volume is stupid high, I'm talking 2 to 3 training sessions per day, then I wouldn't go above 3 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. If your training is nuts, yes, you can go a little higher on that. But for most people, you keep the carbs as 3 grams per pound as your upper threshold, and then start pushing fats up. There's not a ton of people who are going to reach that top number and still need more calories. There just aren't, except for the hard gainers. Once you dial in that, so basically you're just going to keep increasing food and find that sweet spot where you're at 0.5 to 1 gram, 0.5 to 1 pound body weight gain per week on your weekly average. You're gonna have daily fluctuations, that's nothing to worry about. It doesn't really mean anything. You're looking at the data points of your weekly averages, okay? So I hope that gives you some insight on how to set up your macros for maximizing muscle gain. I'm Coach Ryan Finley from the VIPAR Pit. If you like this video, please hit subscribe below. I'll catch you next time.